Just a quick reminder before we jump in. Everything we share here is personal and subjective and meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. We reflect on patterns and dynamics from our lives, research, and what we've learned from our work. But this isn't professional advice or a substitute for therapy. When we mention people like family, friends, or exes, those references are intentionally vague or altered to protect privacy and don't reflect every person in our lives who fits those labels. Our goal is to support healing, not blame. Please check the full disclaimer in the show notes for more information.
Welcome to Self-Centered, the podcast that's all about you. We're your hosts.
I'm Allie, a therapist and life coach.
And I'm Katie, a fitness coach and personal trainer. We know what it's like to feel burnt out, taken for granted, and like your life revolves around everyone but yourself.
By learning to trust yourself, prioritize your needs, and set healthy boundaries, we help you break free from guilt, overfunctioning, and toxic patterns that keep you stuck in relationships and a life that doesn't truly serve you.
Join us each week as we dive into the tools, stories, and mindset shifts you need to create a life that centers you.
Because being self-centered isn't selfish, it's essential.
Alrighty, hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. You get a funsy one today. I'm leading this. Allie's like, oh my God, I get it to be silly.
I know. I love when Katie leads because I'm like off the leash that I have to put myself on to stay focused enough and to like be organized. And I'm super excited about this episode because Katie just told me about what we're going to be talking about. I'm excited.
So today we are going to be talking about the light and the dark, the good and the evil, the self-centered and the self-abandoned ways that exercise impacts your mental health.
Whoa.
So I know, it's exciting. It sits at the intersection of where Allie and I's fields kind of meet. Because of course I'm a personal trainer. I'm in the physical health field. Allie is a therapist in the mental health field. And sometimes there's some crossover. And this is kind of where the crossover is hitting. So
and we're both like, your field is your field, but then you're so interested in mental health. And then my field is my field, but I'm so interested in fitness.
Yeah. So it's going to be super fun. You've heard me say on the podcast before that exercise is not therapy. And it's true. However, exercise is therapeutic. So there are benefits on both sides of it. And that's kind of why, initially when I was thinking about this episode, I was going to do, just the benefits of exercise or just the dark side of exercise. But when I was thinking about that, I was like, but everyone's going to have an if, and, or but, because it's true, because it's nuanced. Yeah. There are times when it's beneficial and there's times when it's not. It's like any tool. It can be used to build us up, but if we're not careful, it can wear us down and it can keep us distracted from what we actually need to be paying attention to further our goals, to become more self-centered, and to improve our life and emotional well-being.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. It's like, we've talked about this before, where it's like certain coping strategies that if you use it in the right situation and the right amount, it's healthy. But if you overuse it, it's actually not.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about the light side first, the good stuff. Why is movement medicine? Well, when you move your body, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. These are your feel-good messengers. They help regulate your mood. They reduce your anxiety. They ease depression. They give you a sense of clarity and focus. I know whenever I have finished a workout, there's like this 30-minute period about 5 minutes after I'm like spiraling of, oh my God, I can't see straight. But 3 minutes after, I'm just like, whoa, I can take on the world.
Yes.
I'm empowered. I'm like, have all these creative ideas. I've even have that happen while I'm exercising. If like a creative idea for like a social media post or something comes to me, I'm like, oh shit, I got to write that down real quick because it's so good, right?
Yeah.
And that's because it improves the executive functioning within your brain. So executive functioning includes things like your working memory, your cognitive flexibility, and your inhibitory control. So what are those things? So working memory, your memory, what you can access on a regular basis and on a day-to-day basis right now.
Short term.
Yep. Let's have Allie define that. Cognitive flexibility.
Cognitive flexibility is really, this is probably too easy. It's like a cop-out, but it's the opposite of cognitive rigidity, right? You can see multiple perspectives. You can see multiple ways of responding to a situation, ways of thinking about it, ways of feeling about it. And you can it's being nimble, really. It's okay. we were talking about in the last episode, having discernment of what's going on, and then how do I need to respond to this situation in a way that makes sense for the situation. That's being flexible. Whereas being rigid, which obviously we talked about last week with the rigid boundaries, is you're stuck in one way of doing something. And so you overuse that one way of seeing things or responding to things.
And I would think that too kind of gives you the flexibility to move between those, even within the same moment.
Yes.
If it's like, okay, I'm not stuck in this one frame of mind. I can consider multiple perspectives. I can change tasks. Yeah. And then it also it's related to your inhibitory control. So it's like impulse control, which are all part of your executive functioning. So even with a single bout of exercise, you can improve your attention and your executive function with a singular bout of exercise. So there was a study done by the Zinman College of Physical Education and Sports Science. It's called The Acute Effect of Exercise on Executive Function and Attention, Resistance versus Aerobic Exercise. So basically they put these 40 people into 3 categories. They had them do 30 minutes of resistance training and at a different time, 30 minutes of aerobic activity, so like your cardio, or 30 minutes of rest. When they did the 30 minutes of resistance exercise or strength training, they had a greater increase in attention scores and they had improvements in executive functioning significantly. When they did the aerobic exercise, they had improvements in executive functioning and an upward trend of attention scores, but not a statistically significant enough number. So just mindfulness there.
That makes sense to me. Sorry.
I know. Right? Go ahead. However, when they did the rest, it was truly no difference. So when they were just chilling, resting, it's not like they were doing some other task. It was like they literally were forced to rest for 30 minutes.
Sitting there.
Yeah, which you would think like, I mean, there are times in the day where I'm like, okay, I need rest. I need to just like be a vegetable. But that did not improve their executive functioning or their attention.
Wow.
I know. Yeah. Really interesting.
Yeah, because you would think, oh, well, they got a rest, so they replenished that. Right. Wow.
No, they just didn't lower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So looking into the brain chemistry of it, when we exercise, we boost levels of our neurotransmitters. Our neurotransmitters, we've heard these things before, are dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and those are crucial to cognitive functioning and our mood regulation. The more that we exercise, the more we strengthen the connections in our prefrontal cortex. That's the area of your brain that's responsible for executive functioning. And you'll increase blood flow to that area. The more blood flow, the more oxygen, the more that we can grow, repair, and become amazing. So we want that. We want that.
Okay, I just want to add something. Okay, so I actually, in undergrad, there were a bunch of research classes I had to take, but for one of them, we had to do a literature review before we then did our own study, because we have to look at what research is already out there and then create a study that fills a gap of research that hasn't been done. And the literature review that I did was looking at how running versus not running and running alone versus running in a group of people impacted the volume of tissue in your prefrontal cortex and your frontal lobe, what you're talking about with the executive functioning. And running in general, whether it's alone or with a group, it creates neurogenesis, which is just a fancy way of saying more cells. Literally, you can get more tissue there. And when we have depression and anxiety, if we could do a scan, in the research, they do the scans, but doctors don't really do this for us. But you could go look at the research of before and after neurogenesis and BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It increases that, which creates the new cells and creates the tissue in your brain. With depression and anxiety, we lose that volume. And so the running actually allows us to create more physical tissue, more cells. And then our executive functioning has the building blocks that it needs to actually have that impulse control and be agile and think through things instead of just reacting. Like I said, it also looked at running alone versus running in groups. And I don't remember exactly, but it was like each of them is good for different reasons. That running in groups increased oxytocin, which is the bonding and connection hormone, and feels really good. And then I think running alone was like serotonin and regulated dopamine and norepinephrine. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to add that exercise will literally give you more brain.
We love that. I love how you said that.
We need that.
Give me anything that will give me more brain.
Yeah, we need more brain.
What is that meme? The smooth brain? We don't want the smooth brain.
Yeah, we want a bumpy lumpy brain.
Ruffles have ridges. Give me the ruffle brain.
That's right. Exactly. We don't want no lay brain. Oh my gosh. Where did we go just now? Oh, I love being off the leash. I love when you
Oh, no. Okay.
All right. That's all I have to say.
All right. For now.
For now.
All right. So we're moving on. We talked about exercise in the brain, but what about exercise in your nervous system? I've talked about this briefly in another portion of the podcast, but let's go deeper into it. So your nervous system has two major modes. We have your fight or flight response. That's your stress response, also called your sympathetic nervous system. And then you have your rest and digest. This is your calm, regulated state. It's also called your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, most of us, we are living in the hustle culture, the scroll culture, and damn, the stress culture. We are just constantly on having to perform, meet expectations, or it feels like that. We're just overwhelmed and overstimulated, and we're stuck in this fight or flight mode basically all the time, and we don't even realize it. It's like we're stuck with one foot on the gas pedal, but eventually the engine is going to burn out. So that's where exercise, especially if it's done intentionally, can be really powerful. It gives us a place to release that pent up stress and energy. I think about back to the anger episode where you feel everything within your body. It's like the rage is just like bubbling and boiling over. And if you don't have a release with it, it feels really uncomfortable to sit with it. So you're either going to bury it down or you end up exploding on someone. And we obviously don't want people to explode. And the same is true in terms of your stress, that if you do not have a release for your stress, it will eventually build and build and build until it hits this critical moment where you are down and out. And I've actually noticed that I've observed that for people when they discover that they have an autoimmune disease, is that it usually happens when one of the people that I'm thinking about is someone really close to me, and they discovered their autoimmune disease after a period of intense, just one after another, incredibly stressful situations that all culminated all at once. They were constantly giving, and then their body totally shut down. They were hospitalized, and it was like a 3-year battle of trying to figure out what was wrong. Turns out it was an autoimmune situation. All of that to say, if we do not regulate our stress, it can turn into something so much bigger. And exercise can be a great tool to prevent that. It completes what's called the stress cycle, so you can move into a more balanced and grounded state.
So the stress cycle, visually in my head, it's a circle. So let's just make it up, right? It's a circle. So the stress cycle, you start, let's say, at 12 o'clock and you're stressed, right? And we get to like 6 p.m. And if we just stay there and we're full of the 6 hours of stress and we don't release it with exercise or something else, but we're talking about exercise right now, then we're just walking around with that stress, with that cortisol, all that stuff in our body. Whereas if we can go to 6 p.m. and then we exercise it out, then, okay, we're back to 12 o'clock, except it's like from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. was the exercise release. And so we get to start over fresh.
Yeah, we're filling up our cup with good things as opposed to being weighed down by shitty things.
Yeah.
So what type of exercise works best? Well, let's be real. It depends on the person. And not only does it depend on the person, it depends on the season of life and what the needs are in that moment. I know on a day-to-day basis, my exercise needs, although I have a generalized type of training that I'm in for seasons, like months or years at a time, generally on a day-to-day, my needs change. There are some days where it's like, yeah, I need a really hard power-based strength training session where I'm just doing a lot of explosive movements. That might be when I'm really angry and I need something to just kind of like rage and release
listening to
all
angry
of that.
music, just getting it out.
Exactly. My fitness, man, when I was filled with anger, whoo, that revenge body was real.
That girl was toned.
And so much of that was because I was using exercise as a tool to release a lot of that built up anger that didn't have a place to go. However, there are other times where it's like I have been so worn down over the day that trying to envision going and putting my energy into a hard workout, it's just not there. Mm-hmm. And if I was to do that, I would be so burnt out. My body would be destroyed afterwards. So something more relaxing that still gets me moving, like walking or yoga, that would be a better tool for me at that time. Another one that I don't think people think about as frequently in terms of exercise, but absolutely is, and I know Allie can touch on this as well, is your team sports and your sport-based activities.
Yes. Pickleball.
Yeah. And
that's
so
mine. I mean, obviously there's lots of other ones, but pickleball is my team sport of choice.
And the great thing about that type of exercise, because it builds community as well, it can be self-reinforcing. So if you're someone who struggles with going to the gym to work out, the gym might just not be your form of exercise. I have a client who, when they first came to me, they were very self-aware about this too. They said it outright. They're like, I have always believed that I'm a person that hates exercise. And then I stopped and I reflected and I realized I like to do a lot of active things. And so I just thought that I was a person that hated exercise. But it turns out what I hated was strength training. I love every other form of exercise.
Yeah.
They're like, I will willingly go for a run. I love being out in the water. I love doing, team-based activities.
Yeah.
I love hiking. They're like, I just hate being in a gym because of the gym bros. I'm like, that's fair. I get it.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to limit yourself to what you believe or what society has told you that exercise looks like. If it's moving your body, it's exercise.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, but isn't strength training important?
Yes, it is.
So I guess my question is like, okay, there's different levels, right? Like if you're going to be like, I'm not going to move my body at all, or I'm going to move my body doing what I want, and that's only going to be cardio or team sports, then obviously that's better than nothing. And isn't strength training so important, especially as we get older?
It absolutely is so important. So one of the reasons strength training is so important is because strength training is one of the only modalities, and this is including medication, that has been proven time and time again to increase bone density and stave off osteoarthritis and osteoporosis. Big deal. You don't want to break a hip
when
you get older. So strength training is so important to that. Now, what people conceptualize as strength training is I go into a gym and I use a dumbbell, or I use a barbell, or I use the plate loaded equipment or the machines. And because there is an overwhelming benefit in muscle building efficiency to that type of strength training, eventually the hope is that whatever type of fitness that we love will motivate us to strength train like that to improve it. But until then, it's also true that what we determine as strength training activities that improve bone density is just load-bearing activities.
Meaning
a body weight squat
Okay.
is considered a strength training activity.
Okay.
So you're walking with a weight vest
Yeah.
is a form of strength training. Yoga, inversions, all forms of strength training. So there's some crossover in a lot of fields. And that's why I say don't limit yourself. Like hiking, also a form of strength training. All of those are just repeated step-ups.
What
man.
about rock climbing? Because that's like your body is a weight and you're pulling.
Exactly.
And then,
yes.
well, with strength training, you've said this before, but I don't really get it. And you don't have to like explain it in detail, but there's push movements and there's pull movements. So is rock climbing really just the pull?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Because you're also pushing with the lower body. And
yeah.
I would say that, yes, there's a lot more pull emphasized movements on that, but there's your agonistic and your antagonistic
I know
muscles.
sometimes you have to use the language of your field before you can put it into regular people terms.
Exactly. So your agonistic and your antagonistic muscles. So there's the muscle that's contracting, and then there's the muscle that's keeping that muscle that's contracting from over contracting and throwing your joint out of alignment.
So is that muscle lengthening that's keeping the
The contracting one is shortening.
Yeah.
The one that's keeping the contracting one from overdoing it is your
It's
lengthening muscle. Yes.
Yeah.
So when I'm pulling, so if I'm rock climbing and I'm gripping onto the rock and I'm pulling myself up, my lat, so the muscle in my back, is contracting, it's shortening as I'm bringing my arm down and pulling my upper body up. But my pec is the opposing muscle that's keeping my lat from over contracting and pulling the chest open. So the pec is making sure that the lat doesn't overdo it.
And that's why you have said to me, like, to make sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that the push movements that you're doing and the pull movements, that you're not overdoing one or the other, because then you would create an imbalance. I know
specifically, yes, specifically for you. And this is really helpful. No, you're fine. This is really helpful as well for many of the selfies and many people in our American society. They work desk jobs at this point. And that is something that I've found consistently is people who work desk jobs tend to have rounded shoulders because they're sitting at a desk and they're typing on a computer and their posture isn't always the best. So when you round your shoulders forward, that contracts your pectoral muscles, so the muscles on your chest, and it over lengthens your back muscles. Over lengthened muscles can feel tight because they're over lengthened.
They're stretched. Yeah.
They're stretched. Yeah. So what you actually need to
be
do,
stretched tight.
They need to be contracted.
Yeah.
In order to make them not tight anymore.
Whoa.
Remember when, so
wait,
hold
on. Wait, so if you get a massage, it's like people are like, I'm going to get a massage because I'm going to like lengthen these back muscles. But what you really need is contraction, which massage
can be.
Okay.
Can be. And massage, I would put massage into the category of acupuncture, as well as there's some nervous system and neuromuscular things that are going on there that benefit. That the brain is making connections of, okay, I'm increasing blood flow and circulation to this area. So it's not just stretching, and it's actually mostly not stretching in a massage.
Oh, so it's bringing oxygen through the blood, and that's helping repair the tissue.
Exactamundo. But so remember, so y'all get a glimpse into Allie and I's day-to-day conversation. So recently Allie sent me a text message and she was like, hey, help, my hip feels out of whack. And I was like,
what do I do? And she was like, I
was like, well, that's fucking
things.
vague. And I was like, it's super duper nuanced. I actually have so many more questions. I can't answer your question because there's too many answers based off of what happened. Like if this, then that. Yeah. And I can't just give you a cookie cutter answer, which is also just a general aside. If you ever are approaching someone in fitness and you ask them a very general question of like, why does my back hurt? And they're like, oh, it's because of this, without asking you any further clarifying questions.
Same with therapists.
Run away.
That's why on this podcast, when Katie's like, so someone in this kind of situation, what would you do? What would you tell them to do? And I'm like, well, it would depend on my assessment of them.
You're like, and then I'm going to ask 12 million more questions.
Exactly. Like, I'm like, what's the root of it? Like, what's the dynamic? Like,
which is also why we feel like we have to give so much context to many things. And it is valuable to do that because none of these are a one size fit all.
Yeah.
Like there's so much nuance to all of this. So.
Oh, and guys, turns out I was wrong because I went to the chiropractor and it was not my hip, it was my glute. So that's the other thing is you go ask someone a question and you're not even asking the right question just because, it's not your expertise and you don't know. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where it's really on the provider to ask a million questions. And if your provider's not asking a million questions, they're probably not the right provider for you. Mm-hmm. When I meet with clients, I literally have a full hour-long sit down of, hey, tell me all of the things that are going on with your body and your entire life health history. Oh yeah, and also tell me all of your personal physical stressors because that is held in your body too. Well, I can't go that far, but yeah. Anywho, so there's a lot of nuances to this. All of that to say, the type of exercise that will work best for you depends on the situation. It depends on what you enjoy. And it depends on what you need that day. Maybe you're feeling super run down and doing a really heavy HIIT session is not going to be the vibe for you, but a walk on the beach would feel so good. That's great. Mm-hmm. Do that. And then there are other days where you have a lot of pent up anger or pent up stress that you feel like you need to rage against. And it's like sitting in a yoga class might not be the vibe. That might just make you more frustrated because there's no actual physical release for you. You needed something more intense.
It was like me at ballet class as a kid, and I was like, fuck this shit. I need hip hop. I got too much trauma happening right now. I cannot do that.
You're like, I need to wiggle and twerk and send it to the bottom of the floor.
I got to twerk this out.
Exactly. So whatever it is that you enjoy, that you feel safe doing, and that makes you want to do it again, that's probably the exercise that you want to prioritize. And that may go through seasons. There may be periods in your life where you're like all about one type of activity. Like there was a period in my life where I was super about running. Ooh, this reminds me. Oh, maybe I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But there was a period of my life where I was super into running, and that was great. And then when I got out of the season that I was using running as a coping tool for me, running was not that interesting to me anymore. And I needed more relaxing methods of exercise. I needed more walking. I needed more outdoor stuff. I needed more, paddle boarding or things that centered me in my zen as opposed to rage or pushing my body to extremes.
Yeah. And it's making me think about the centered pillar of clarity of self, where we talk about, know who you are and what you need. And that, clarity of self isn't just, oh, this is who I am and what I need all the time. That happens in seasons. And so you need to really be tuning into, well, what do I need right now?
Yes, exactly. You cannot create a permanent rule for yourself if you're not willing to check in on that rule and see if it's still true.
Yeah.
Because it might change.
Okay. I just want to also say, don't try something one time and then think I didn't like it, so I must not like it. Because sometimes it takes kind of getting into it and getting over the newness of it and just the awkwardness and discomfort of starting something new and change. Because strength training is something for me that if I haven't been regularly strength training, and I mean lifting weights for me, then I don't want to do it and I hate it. But as soon as I get into strength training for a couple weeks and I stay consistent with it, and I even start, super light weights, just maintain form, just get myself into it, then I start craving it and I actually love it. So I would give yourself a little bit of time to trial something first before you decide whether or not it's something that you want to do again.
That's a great point. And I will also add that if you want to try something that you haven't tried before, or you have tried it before and you didn't like it, try it with someone who loves it. And that's something I found a lot. I've converted so many people to be runners because of it. Because what you'll find is your perception of how that physical activity should be performed might be different than what the actual execution of how it should be happening. Yeah. So with running, I'll just give you guys a little spoiler. If you've ever been tempted to start running and you're like, oh my God, I hate running. Hi, I was the person that hated running. I grew up swimming and playing water polo. I only did water sports. I actually did diving for a little bit too, but only water sports. And I swore up and down, among many other things that are now no longer true in my life, I swore up and down that I would never do land sports. That's exactly how I said it to myself. I'm like, gravity
I'm a fish. I'll surf, no turf.
I'm like, gravity is not meant for me. I have shitty joints. Aww. I have scoliosis, and I have so many physical impairments that would be like, oh yeah, this is reasons why it shouldn't be good for you. And then I was like, well, these are excuses. I'm just allowing them to hold myself back. So I tried running. I hated it. I said, let me try it again. Let me slow the fuck down. And you know what I discovered about running is I was trying to do it by what I thought the standard of success was in running. And hi, recovering people pleaser and perfectionist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I'm like, oh my God, if I'm not running an 8 to 9 minute pace, I'm not running.
Oh no. Yeah.
So when I started running and I actually took it seriously, I was like, okay, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to go at whatever pace feels comfy. And people have told you before that you should be able to have a conversation when you run. They actually do mean it. You should be able to hold a full conversation when you're going for a run. And
what is that called? Like steady state or like second something?
Your steady state exercise. We call it specifically the having the conversation, though, is your talk test.
Oh, okay. I've just heard that. So that is the most important thing, but it was like something like, zone 2.
Oh, yeah. Your zone 2 exercise. Yes. Yeah. And that's referring to a level of heart rate, basically like how fast your heart is beating, to maintain that level of exercise for an extended period of time. So yes, that is your zone 2 training. For most people, it's a lot lower intensity than you think it is, which is why the talk test is really helpful, because not everyone uses a fitness tracker and many of them are inaccurate. They are also about 10 seconds delayed. So that's mindfulness, is when you start exercising, you might start running, you might look at your watch and be like, oh, I'm doing fine. And then 10 seconds later, you're like, oh my God, I'm dying, but it said I'm doing fine. That's because it's behind.
Don't worry. Wait a few seconds. It's going to tell you you're dying.
Exactly. So you're going to find a pace. You're going to stick with that pace. And then after like 30 seconds, you're going to go back and you're going to check your watch and be like, oh, okay, what zone am I in? How intense is my heart rate? And am I able to hold a conversation? I have a ton of these like reels coming up on my Instagram right now of 2 people running together, and it's like a marathon trainer and then just someone running for the first time. And the marathon trainer asks the other person like, oh, what's your heart rate right now? And the person's like, oh, 187. And they're obviously dying. And the 187 person is like, oh, what's yours? And the marathoner's like, 108.
Oh
just like
God.
chilling. Yeah, because they're trained in their practice to that. So
course.
when you first start, it's super fucking slow.
Yeah.
Because you're not there yet. And that's okay. Yeah. It honestly, when I first started running seriously, I was running slower than a walking pace.
Yeah.
But it's impact.
One of the things I love about running is that you can do it at whatever pace you feel like. So it can really match you and your experience and the music too. It's like you can curate the exact experience you want, where it's like, I'm just going to listen to happy music and just, kind of do a relaxed run and just feel good and, look at the trees or whatever it is, or the city if you're, in San Diego or somewhere else. And if you're pissed, then the playlist is different and you're going harder,
Yeah, exactly. And if you can't figure out how to slow down, don't listen to music at all.
Ooh.
Which is wild. That's actually when I first started running, I did not listen to any music while I ran for probably the first 6 months. I listened to the sound of my breathing. It was ridiculous. I was going through a lot. That was my realization that I was going to get divorced in 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I used running for, was to overcome that period of time.
We're glad
so
you used
let's talk about that, though. That segues us into the dark side. When does exercise hurt more than it helps?
Yeah.
So while movement can be healing, too much of it or using for the wrong reasons is actually pretty harmful to your mental health. When you are reaching for that feel-good moment, that dopamine hit, more than you're reaching to resolve why you're constantly going into fight or flight, that's when it starts to become harmful.
Because it's like, I'm not just using this to finish the stress cycle and then handle the situation that caused the stress cycle and make these changes. I'm actually probably overdoing it. And probably now you're creating a new stress cycle where with your overexercise. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Does it do that? Does it like increase your stress hormones?
Yes. So that's what's interesting is initially you might not notice this, and there's an arc that'll happen here. So initially you start exercising as a way to deal with your stress. That's great. You complete the stress cycle, you get a benefit because, oh great, I'm not overstressed anymore. This is where exercise is therapeutic, and where a lot of people start to say, oh, exercise is my therapy. However, there is something that is causing you stress. And if it's chronically and repeatedly causing you stress, and you are either choosing not to exert control, the control that you do have over it, or it is something that you cannot control and you're avoiding it, the stress will build. You're only releasing a little bit of steam from the pot. You're not actually stopping the water from boiling. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Great. So then your body is still getting stressed from exercise. It's a different type of stress. You may be releasing the mental side of your stress, but you are taking a physical toll on your body. Exercise breaks down muscle tissue. It also can cause inflammation. It can raise your cortisol, your stress hormone. So if you're doing it in excess, it can lead to something called overtraining. Overtraining syndrome is a no-go. It is bad juju. It is very easy for athletes to fall into this because they're held to rigid training schedules. But if you're someone who has also created an identity around your exercise and you don't see yourself as a person who exercises, you see yourself as the exerciser, that is your identity, then you might be prone to overtraining, which long-term will hurt your body. When we talked about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system relative to exercise, when you exercise, you are in your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, your stress response. It is a stressor. But hitting that stressor in a constructive way and then coming down from that stressor gives you an opportunity to enter into your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest and your repair stage. But if there is that mental stress that you're avoiding still going on and boiling in the background, that's not letting you fully rest and repair. Your threshold is still high. You've just released a little bit of the steam. So you're not coming down out of your sympathetic nervous system. And if you're not healing because you're training too much, so maybe I'm doing 2 or 3 a day, 75 hard is like my biggest bone to pick. Because it's the person that's saying, oh yeah, maybe I've never exercised before, or I've never exercised recently. And now I'm going to do a 1-hour workout. And then I'm also going to do a 1-hour outdoor workout. And I'm going to do both of those every single day for 75 days.
Yeah, that's
the
insane.
fuck you think you're going to do to your body?
Yeah.
Your body cannot adapt that quickly. And so the number of people that report overuse injuries from that is pretty high.
That hurts my heart.
I know, it's a super bummer. So overtraining, interestingly enough, can increase anxiety and depression. And then because you've created an identity around exercise and you've injured yourself in overtraining, then you cannot train anymore. You're having an identity crisis.
Oh, God. And also over-exercising, you're using it, right? Like it's not therapy if you're using it to avoid. Well, I mean, exercise isn't therapy. It's
It's not therapeutic.
Therapy. Yeah. It's complementary is what I want to say. If you're using exercise to avoid your feelings or avoid these things that are going on internally or situations in your life that need to be addressed that are harming you, then you are dissociating, you are numbing, you are pushing all that stuff down. And then now you can't exercise anymore because you've ruined your body. So not only is there an identity crisis, but all these things that you've been dissociated and numbing from is going to flood you. And you are going to get hit so hard with all these feelings and all these experiences that you have been repressing. And you're probably going to have a crisis, a mental health crisis.
Yes, exactly. Now, the shitty thing additionally, so there are tons of things that add to us being able to rest and repair and enter into our parasympathetic nervous system, which of course can improve our anxiety, PTSD symptoms, depression, right? Sleep being one of them. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're not resting and repair. All of your repair is done while you sleep, muscular repair and cognitive and mental. I mean, your brain being able to shut down and recharge, that's going to occur while you sleep. When you start overtraining, and overtraining as in overtraining syndrome, when you enter into that, your sleep suffers as well. You're not able to sleep well. So you're not entering into all of your stages. You're not able to stay asleep very long. You keep waking up frequently throughout the night. Other signs of overtraining syndrome, constant fatigue. No shit, because you're also not sleeping.
Totally.
Or even if you do get a full 10 hours of sleep, let's say, then you wake up and you're like, okay, well, I'm still exhausted.
Not enough to repair.
Or because your body is sitting in its sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
So if I'm sitting in my sympathetic nervous system, something that happens and something that I've gotten like really obsessed with. I'm kind of the data obsessed person over here because I like concrete information to validate the things that I'm feeling about myself. So I'm the person that wears my fitness tracker obsessively because I want the data. I want to check in and see, okay, is what I'm feeling in my body consistent with what I'm seeing in the data, and vice versa. And when I'm making the right habits, it's reaffirming that, oh yeah, I should keep making the right habits. So for instance, my heart rate variability, something that my Garmin watch tracks, and your heart rate variability, it's basically the variations between beats, and you actually want it to be higher. It's like minute, very millisecond type of variations. So you don't want the same steady rhythm for every single beat. That would indicate a lack of flexibility and adaptability. That is actually you in your fight or flight zone. That is you in your sympathetic nervous system. Low heart rate variability. Make sense so far? Mm-hmm. When you go into your parasympathetic nervous system and your body is able to repair, you have higher heart rate variability. So when you exercise and you're in your sympathetic nervous system, having that really steady beat after beat after beat can be helpful because you're in the stress.
Right.
But if you're not recovering and experiencing that variability, then you're not getting the repair. So shitty sleep or not enough sleep also means you're not getting the repair, which means you're not ever actually coming out of fight or flight. So little things, I know it's fucking wild. And it's so nuanced and it's so like...
It's like a downward spiral. I feel
really
so
is.
bad for people who experience this. And selfies, if you can relate to this, hopefully you take from this episode how to work through this. I mean, I think you probably have to figure out the root of what's leading to the overexercise and then get help with that. Sorry. I'm asking a lot of questions. Is it okay?
No, it is a great question. Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Well, yeah, like it probably depends on what led to it, right? So if it was, okay, well, this person is avoiding all this mental health stuff, then they really need therapy. Or if, I don't know what else it would be. Because I'm a mental health person, that's what I got.
For me, because I remember I do a very extensive interview with my clients beforehand to start to get the warning signs of what might come up for them when we start exercising. And if I notice that a client has a lot of stress in their life, the type of exercise that I will introduce to them is far different than the client that does not have a lot of stress in their life and has a lot of tools. So that's one thing I ask my clients are, okay, what's your stress level currently? And what tools do you have and are you using to manage that stress? If the client's like, I have no tools, I'm like, oh, okay, so let me refer you to a network of people. Or I'll start to sprinkle that in slowly within our sessions because giving them all that information all at once can be a lot.
Yeah. So like, oh shit, she's going to make me look at things I don't want to look at. I know. Right? And actually deal with things. I love how holistic you are, though. You work with the whole person.
Yes, because if I was just to treat you as someone who needed exercise, I would set you up for overtraining and exercise addiction. And I'm not there to do that.
Do you think that's the majority of the fitness industry?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what it seems like from the outside. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it hurts my heart. And I was certainly there at a period of time. And did it serve me for a purpose? Because, so this is what I was referring to with the running. So when I started running was also around the time that I did a very restrictive exercise program. It was long bouts of exercise multiple times a day. It was very restrictive eating patterns. It was great in terms of my physique for a period of time. However, it got me really disconnected from my emotional experience. And the reason I started it lined up with realizing that, I was going to be getting divorced in it. Like at the time, there was a very big offense that I discovered within my marriage. And I remember as soon as it happened, I was like, ooh, this is the beginning of the end. And it, spiraled into other things of like asking for therapy and, hoping that we could work on things in couples counseling. And then the abuse is starting to increase a lot more intensely, and projection increasing really intensely, and it just becoming a really unsafe environment for me. But because I couldn't control what was going on with my partner and I at the time, and it felt like there was no way out because my partner wasn't receptive and was just like really, I mean, they were gaslighting me. They were turning it all around on me and saying that it was my fault.
Darvo.
Or their behaviors.
Yeah.
Go fucking figure. Because that was happening, I felt like I had no control in my life. And I was also in a place where I was financially dependent on this person. So I was like, fuck, I have to start taking control of things. And because I can't take control of my relationship and I can't make this improve because this person has shown me that they're not open to improvement, the only things that I can change are myself. And I'll just focus on the physical side of things and the financial side of things. And so I, went gung-ho into work, and I thrust myself into work. And then I went gung-ho into fitness, and I thrust myself into really toxic fitness patterns. And unfortunately, that catches up to you. And even still, I'm in some ways paying the price of having overworked for so many years, that it's hard to reclaim the boundaries of, oh yeah, you don't need to work 100-hour weeks, Katie. You don't even need to work 60-hour weeks. In fact, it would be better for you to work 30-hour weeks.
Yeah.
But how are we going to get to that when you've built up a business that's dependent on 60-hour weeks?
Yeah.
It's tough. And the same thing with exercise. And this is where exercise addiction comes into the conversation. So when you exercise and you're getting the dopamine and the serotonin hits, you're getting an association that when I do this hard thing, I feel really good. When I'm stressed and I do the hard thing, I feel really good. Oh, stress starts hitting me more frequently. Let me go back and do the hard thing. If I can just get a workout in, I'll feel better. And then stress hits you more. And then the stress that you can't control hits you more. And then the stress that you're not prepared or equipped for, so you avoid it, hits you more. And then you start doing 2 workouts a day, 3 workouts a day. Your entire identity becomes exercise. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
If I don't get a workout in, I'm not okay. If I'm not exercising for 3 hours today, I'm not okay. If I get injured, my identity is gone.
Wow, it's like a prison. That sounds like hell.
And that's why I'm so passionate about that portion of it, is because me personally, I was there. I had that season in my life, and I'm so thankful that, what interrupted that was honestly COVID. Yeah. COVID happened in the height of my overworking period of my life and doing so many different physical activities. And then the whole world shut down and I was forced to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why there were a lot of mental health issues with COVID. I mean, obviously isolation impacts her,
for sure.
But a lot of it was, oh, I can't distract anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Divorce rate went through the roof because you're forced to be around the person
exactly
that you realize you're not compatible with or is causing you harm.
Or you've known the whole time, but that was how you made it work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the other shitty thing.
Dang. Okay.
I know. It just keeps going.
Yeah. Okay. What's the other shitty thing?
So remember how we said that exercise can improve executive function and attention? Well, overtraining and exercise addiction is actually associated with cognitive impairment.
Yeah.
Means you have slower thinking, you have trouble focusing, you have mental fog.
Yeah. Oh, and that's so hard because now you have dug a hole. You're in this hole and it's harder for you to figure out how to get out of it because you're so depleted. You can't even think through and strategize.
Yeah. So your embodiment goes way down.
Yeah,
you
totally.
No
You're definitely not aware of emotion regulation. Way down.
At all.
Needs ownership. Way down.
Yeah. And then, like I said, before, your cortisol goes through the roof and you're more reactive and less able to recover from those training sessions. So it just keeps building upon itself. So how do you know when exercise has become compulsive and that you might be experiencing overtraining syndrome? 1, if exercise is something that you're doing out of guilt, out of fear, or out of punishment to your body, that would be a no-go. We don't want you to disconnect from your body. We don't want you to be punishing yourself we don't want you punishing yourself for eating choices, for a lack of activity. That is not what exercise is for. It should be something that brings you joy.
I'm just thinking about a lot of my clients who've had sexual trauma and the body isn't a safe place to be and it's really triggering. And I can see how that could be used to move away from embodiment.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It feels like too much. Therapy.
Yes, for real. And I think that's also when we should reframe what exercise is, right? So if you're someone who, strength training and feeling the muscles and feeling what's working, if that really just creates the ick for you because you're not comfortable with being connected with your body right then and there, but you need the benefit of exercise, okay, well then doing something like team sports or walking outside or having
Or
something
swimming.
in nature.
I think the water sports thing is helpful there.
Exactly. Any of those tools could be so much better for you and could help create the benefit without you feeling like you have to punish yourself with the exercise, because there can be a source of joy from it too.
Yeah.
Other things that it can look like: having constant fatigue, not feeling rested, having poor sleep, not being able to sleep through the night, having trouble focusing, mood swings that are unexplained. If you get really irritable, sometimes it's not that you're hangry, especially if you're eating enough and you're like, I'm just constantly irritable. Might be that. Anxiety or guilt when you take a rest day. That's a big one. If you are not taking rest days, you are on the path for overtraining.
Or if you're taking rest days because you can't get your body to exercise, even though you want to, because it's so broken down, but you're feeling so anxious and so guilty, that's really a sign. Get help before it gets worse.
Yeah, exactly. The other things, if you're ignoring pain, that is a no-go. If you're ignoring exhaustion, that is a no-go. We do not take pain medication for the purpose of exercising.
Of ignoring the pain is an evolutionary adaptation to signal to us that there's something going on that is harming us and we need to stop doing that. So taking a medication to go do the thing so that you can mute the signal, so you can disregard what your body is telling you that it needs, is not good.
Exactly. So don't fucking take the pain medication just to get through a workout. That is not it. Yeah. If you are feeling, this is my personal trainer asterisk into the sky. Yeah, exactly. If you are feeling pain, sharpshooting things, or aches that will not go away and are becoming chronic, you need to slow down. You need to seek a professional for help at that point. That is not the sign to pop some pills and power through.
Yeah.
There's so many mantras in fitness now, but that are really fucked up and unhealthy, but like no days off and who is that guy? David Goggins, like be hard or something like that.
Yeah.
All of that is utter bullshit if you care about your mental health.
Yeah. Or physical health.
That too.
If you care about your health.
Yeah.
Any kind of health.
Period.
Yeah.
Don't do it. So to add the insult to injury here, there was actually a 2016 study in Neuroscience and Behavioral Reviews that found that athletes, let's be clear, people who are trained, who chronically overtrained, actually showed changes in the brain areas responsible for emotional regulation and impulse control. Aww. Changes in the brain. This is not just like, oh yeah, my body can't recover anymore. Yeah. It's like the brain matter stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah. Your brain is a physical organ.
Yeah. And it's impacted by this shit.
Yeah.
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 Do you have any questions or anything to add? So far?
Yep. Okay. So my first question is, I have done half marathons. I've never run a marathon because I've always thought that in and of itself is over exercise. And I know that you followed that ultra marathon guy and you watched the documentary. So I must be wrong, because I don't think that you would be super into something that's harmful. So can you tell me, are there any sports, and the ones that I'm thinking about are marathons and ultra marathons, but I'm sure there are other ones. Are there any sports that are more prone to overuse injuries or, get exercise addiction.
Yeah. So I would actually say that marathoners and ultra marathoners are less prone to that.
Dang. Okay.
Because of the extensive training protocol that has to lead up to that.
It's necessary. A half marathon you can wing.
You can send it without even any, like, that
You
is
could
the one
just
that I've
go
heard
and hurt
consistently.
yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You can just wing it.
You shouldn't though. You shouldn't though.
You should not. Exactly. That is an easy way to get injured. But the marathon and the ultra marathon distances, you have to prepare for. You have to prepare for
recover
so
from
long.
that. Like you can. That's insane.
Now, the difference is the body is so crazy. And that's one of the reasons why I love that and why I'm so interested in that is because it really does show how adaptive the body can be under intentional conditions.
Yeah, you have to take care of it. Yeah.
Exactly. You do have to take care of it. And what's really crazy to me, and one of the reasons that I'm super interested in ultra marathoning is because the rules shift entirely for ultra marathoning versus marathoning. Because, so for those of you who don't know, ultra marathoning is your like 50-mile races, your 100-mile races. What
the heck? Yeah. And apparently, Katie says you can recover from that, and it's fine as long as you do these very specific intentional things. That's crazy.
With marathon training, there's this slow build that happens. You're slowly building your mileage. It's the same for a 5K. It's the same for a 10K, a 15K, a half marathon. You're slowly and incrementally exposing your body to a new level of stress and then experiencing a period of adaptation. So you might have diminished returns for a short period of time while you're broken down. Then you rest and recover. Your muscles improve. Your cardiovascular health improves. And then you've got this new tier of accessible body adaptation. And now you can
use that to
go
you can further
use it and exercise at this new level. With ultra marathoning, what's wild is there is a diminishing level of return for adaptation once you hit a certain threshold. So kind of the accepted view is that really any race or any event over 40 miles, there's a diminishing level of return for a 40-mile run versus a 60-mile run relative to the injury risk. So someone who is training for a 100-mile race, they will never actually run 100 miles until race day. Whereas if you're training for a marathon, more often than not, you'll hit marathon distance or just before, and then you'll drop down. You'll give yourself a recovery week or two, and then you jump back up and you do your race. With ultra marathoning, it's more about the time that you're spending exercising. So ultra marathoners will do a strength training session for like 2 hours and they'll go for a 40-mile run. And they're considering, I know it's fucking wild, right? On a single day. And so you're considering your overall exercise load at that point. Because the load equation for exercise is not just how much mileage am I doing? It's time under tension.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what's really fascinating about it.
I love how smart you are and how much you know.
I know I don't say it a lot either.
I know. This is awesome.
This is my soapbox now. The other really crazy thing with ultra marathoning is the energy expenditure. For the vast majority, 99.9% of people who come to me for fitness, healthy eating is the thing. You eat a balanced diet, you eat lots of fruits and veggies, you avoid ultra processed foods. For ultra marathoners, you live off of ultra processed foods.
Because you need all that those calories.
Exactly. And you need them to be easily and quickly accessible.
Right.
So when the difference with processing, what processing is breaking down the nutrient to make it as easily and quickly accessible to the body as possible. Sometimes you lose nutrients along the way. So like when you're breaking down grains, like if you think of a white rice versus brown rice. Okay, brown rice and white rice are essentially the same thing, but the brown rice still has like the husk.
The husk, yeah.
Exactly. White rice is considered more processed because the husk was removed. So your body doesn't have to do the work of breaking down the husk to get to the white rice grain.
Right.
So if I was to have rice pudding, that's even more processed because now I've broken down the actual rice grain into rice flour powder granules.
Yeah.
With an ultra marathoner, because the rate of calorie expenditure is so much higher and faster than with which the body can digest and convert the food into energy utilized, they have to consume highly processed.
So quick. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's actually beneficial for them. So you see ultra marathoners chugging full sugar Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And eating an entire Domino's pizza before they go out on a 40-mile run, taking a pause halfway through, grabbing some really fast digesting Twinkies and Oreos.
Yeah.
And calling that nutrition.
Yeah.
And it is nutrition for them.
Yeah. Everything is context, discernment, nuance.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Everything is nuanced. You cannot create a rule as a whole. You have to ask questions.
Yep.
You have to ask questions. There's so much context to everything. What was your second question?
Oh my gosh. Are you loving this? I'm loving it.
It's so interesting to me.
It's so interesting to me. But I also love you being you being the teacher. This is
my
awesome.
realm.
Yes. So, okay. You shared a bunch of physical experiences that people might have that are a signal to them that maybe they're not repairing enough and they need more of that. What are some of the maybe uncomfortable feelings that people might have after they work out that are still healthy and okay? Like being sore, for example.
Great question. Yeah, being sore is totally normal. It is, I want to clarify though, not feeling anything is also normal.
Okay.
Not being sore after a workout does not mean you're not getting adaptation.
That's good to know.
So if you do a workout that is relative to your effort during the workout, meaning we would say, let's say you're doing a set of 8 reps and you have maybe 1 to 2 reps in reserve, meaning you finish your 8 reps and you could maybe do 1 or 2 at most more reps with the chosen weight. If we're doing strength training, that's probably the right weight for you to create adaptation over multiple sets. But if you're like, oh, I could have done 5 more reps, well, we could bump up your weight for strength training.
I know. That was something that Katie was on me for when I trained with her. Now, when I train on my own, I have a little Katie in my head that's like, you could go a little higher. And I'm like,
that's my favorite thing that I hear from clients is like, I have you stuck in my head.
I have
now.
a fucking devil on my shoulder and I love her.
That, don't lock out your knees.
Yep.
Soften your knees.
And also my core. But anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, so soreness is fine. No soreness is fine. Being able to sleep and sleep well, like truly exercise should improve your sleep, assuming you've given yourself enough time.
Even in the beginning when you're first getting into it.
Generally, yeah, you should be.
Okay.
So when you start your exercise, you're fatiguing the body. Your body should want to repair and recover. Now, there's a conversation about timing of exercise and how that this is really nuanced, how that impacts your body temperature.
Oh, right. And your body
your
temperature, if it's
rhythm.
too warm, impacts your sleep. Oh,
Exactly.
and circadian rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's so many layers. And this is this is why it's so nuanced and why I feel like fitness has to be holistic. If you are not considering fitness holistically, you are missing so much of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Because everything influences everything else. Nothing happens in isolation within the body.
Yep.
That being said, so if you're working out at 10 p.m. at night, you finish your workout at 10:31 and you're trying to go to bed at 10:38.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for you to fall asleep because your body temperature is too high.
How many hours?
I would give yourself 2 to 4.
Okay. So when I was training for half marathons, my legs would hurt so bad that I would have trouble sleeping. So I was probably overtraining and didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was probably increasing my distance too fast, or?
Yes.
Because I was resting.
I would say that it wasn't that you were necessarily experiencing overtraining syndrome, which is, and I want to be clear, when you're experiencing overtraining syndrome, a singular rest day will never bring you out of overtraining syndrome.
Yeah, it's like a whole
it's a
chain.
chronic state at that point. It is not something that you'll be able to get out of in a couple days.
Or on your own?
You could get out of it on your own if you took the right protocols. So you're really being intentional about your rest and recovery. You're drinking a fuck ton of water. You're reducing your exercise intensity massively or at all. You're improving your nutrition habits. You're focusing on breath work. You're doing everything that you can to get back to your parasympathetic nervous system. And if you were doing that because you were avoiding something, that you're addressing the thing that you're avoiding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other things that would show that you are progressing at a good intensity, you're actually feeling stronger. Yeah. You're actually feeling like you're improving.
Yeah.
You're not feeling like your exercise takes literally everything out of you. There might be, like when you first start the first maybe 3 to 4 weeks of exercise. Here's a little fun fact aside. The first 4 weeks of strength training, you're not actually gaining muscle. Even with strength improvements. All of that is neurological connections.
Wow.
You're building neural pathways. Yeah.
Cool.
And so your muscle is increasing in size specifically because of an improvement in your neural pathways.
Whoa.
Yeah, crazy. All of that to say, if you're not seeing benefits in terms of your motor skills, in terms of your overall strength, your overall energy, then maybe you're not recovering well. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's what I didn't say about your legs being super crazy, painful, and sore, is the level of load for that singular session was greater than the adaptation that your
so
body
I needed
had.
more rest.
You needed
also
to
don't
increase
think
at
I
a
was
slower rate.
eating the right.
That one. Yeah, that'll play into it as well. If you're not eating enough protein, then you will
Or
not be able to.
carbs.
Yes.
Because for a long time, literally long time, meaning until less than a year ago when I started using a tracker to track my macros, I realized, oh my gosh, I eat way too much fat and I don't eat enough protein and I definitely don't eat enough carbs. Once I started eating as much carbs as I was supposed to for my macros, I had so much more energy.
Yeah. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. That's another soapbox I'll die on. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. They are literally the primary source of energy for the body. Fats can be converted into energy, as can protein, although that's a much more difficult process. It's the last thing that the body will go for. So the body has like a hierarchy of what it'll choose. It chooses carbohydrates first, because it's the easiest transaction within the energy exchange in the body systems. Fats have to be converted first. So there's an additional process that goes on to be able to convert fat into energy.
Which takes energy.
The body. Exactly.
The process takes energy to make energy.
Exactly. And so there's a whole thing that goes into like hitting your lactate threshold and your VO2 max are all connected into your ability to convert
have
energies.
you do an eating one in the future, a nutrition thing?
We can, and I'll have so many disclaimers.
Okay. Sounds good.
But yeah, so carbohydrates are primary source. If you're not eating carbs, you're making it harder for your body to utilize energy.
And repair.
Yeah.
You need carbs in order to adapt and repair after you exercise. So you're actually hampering yourself if you're not eating them.
Yeah, carbs and protein, carbs and protein, carbs and protein. There was actually a recent study that I came across that a 3-hour delay in post-exercise carbohydrate intake reduced next day performance by 30%. And increased perceived effort despite similar glycogen levels. Glycogen it's the form of carbohydrate that the body uses as energy.
Okay.
Immediate carb replenishment may be necessary for recovery and sustaining high intensity output. Participants completed 8 intervals at 85% peak power, followed by a 30-minute time trial. The athletes were divided into 2 groups. Immediate carbohydrate intake, they consumed 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrate immediately post-exercise. And then delayed carbohydrate intake, these people consumed the same 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrates. So they both consumed carbohydrates, but they did so 3 hours later. The findings, the delayed carbohydrate group experienced a 30% reduction in next day high intensity interval performance, which is very stressful on the body. Despite similar muscle glycogen levels, they completed 5 fewer intervals and reported higher perceived exertion, indicating impaired recovery. That was the delayed carbohydrate group.
Dang.
So basically, if you're not eating your carbs post-exercise, your body can't actually do the repair process. Now, granted, carbs and protein are both necessary. Protein is the only thing that will build muscle. You cannot build muscle from carbohydrates. So you have to have both. But exactly to what you're saying is that if carbs are the energy source of the body and you're not giving your body an energy source to repair, how are you going to repair?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing you've ever posted, I think, because I just got this bread, sourdough bread with garlic and rosemary, and I make toast from it, and then I have a protein shake.
I love that. I love that.
My protein shake is the dessert, and the bread is my little like energy thing.
Yeah.
Great.
I will say, if you're someone that hasn't exercised before, don't stress yourself out on all of the details, because those are a lot of nuances, and you can get really lost in the sauce.
Yeah, don't be perfect.
Yeah,
that doesn't exist.
And progress is great.
Yep.
Anything is better than nothing. We just don't want to be overtraining. Circling back to our overtraining, a quick self-check. Do I feel worse physically or emotionally after workouts? Do I feel anxious or guilty if I miss a day? Am I using exercise to earn food or punish my body? Do I ignore signals like pain, fatigue, or hunger? Do I train even when I'm in pain, sick, or exhausted? Dear God, don't you fucking train while you're sick. I'm going to come back at you. Do not go to the gym while you're sick. Stop it. Does rest make me feel lazy or behind? Do you feel numb, disconnected, or unaware of what your body really needs? And if you answered yes to any of those or most of those, you might be in a cycle of self-abandonment disguised as self-discipline.
Mic drop.
So what can we do instead?
Love it.
Reframe rest as a rep.
I love that.
You can make a choice to support your body, both your mental and your physical health, by resting. Guys, I have been so fucking guilty with this myself. And I have to personally assess every day, okay, this is what I have on the docket. Do I feel like I can complete this exercise, or would it push me past a safe state of recovery? And that takes time to develop. So don't feel like you got to know all the answers. Sometimes it's trial and error. So being self-reflective after you complete a workout and saying, okay, did this make me feel good physically, as good as it did mentally and emotionally? As empowered as I feel? Do I feel like I'm also stronger? Or am I exhausted and is my body screaming at me? And does that linger on for many days? That would be an indication that maybe that workout was not supportive of your overall holistic health. We want to choose movement that makes you feel more alive, not more exhausted. And tune in and ask yourself, am I using this to connect with myself or escape myself and my current situation? If you're using it as a tool, are you going to come back to the thing that you're avoiding? There have been times, my therapist has actually recommended this, and this is, I think it's a good piece of advice too, but it's taken with a grain of salt. I have a difficult therapy session where I, experience a lot of emotions and my stress response is high. I'm feeling all the feelings. It would be helpful for me to move my body after that. Again, what the movement looks like can vary. It could be something as gentle as a walk or yoga. It could be breath work, or it could be something more intense like a strength training session or an explosive power session or sprints, something like that, right? But once I do that, am I going to go back and integrate and reflect on the thing that was intense for me? If I start feeling the feelings and I'm like, oh, I need to go do a workout, so I don't feel the feelings, and then I don't let myself process at some point from a more regulated state, that is me self-abandoning.
Yes. Basically, what you're doing is you're completing the stress cycle by engaging in movement, and then from a more regulated place, then you can process through and integrate what you worked through.
Yes.
And it reminds me of when I talk about coping strategies for mental health, which is temporary. I mean, it's not always, but in this case, temporary avoidance. And that avoidance is really you being able to rest, recover, like get yourself back to baseline. And then when you're able to and you're more regulated, then you can actually work through and approach that thing. So temporary avoidance is healthy.
Yes.
Because it's actually rest. It's actually productive, right?
Yeah.
But if you do it forever, if it's permanent, then that's not healthy.
Exactly. Don't weaponize your exercise, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every tool in our mental health toolbox, whether it's journaling, therapy, movement, exercise, mindfulness, it has the potential to help or to hurt. What makes a difference is the intention and the context. So are you listening to your body or are you overriding it? Being self-centered does not mean that you have to abandon yourself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what you think might be healthy, because that's what our culture says, exercise equals healthy, could actually be harmful and self-abandonment if you weaponize it, abuse it, misuse it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Yay, fun.
Yeah. Yay, fun. All right. If y'all have any questions, let us know.
Great.
Okay, bye.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at selfcentered.pod or connect with us at selfcenteredthepod@gmail.com.
Stay self-centered, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.